I've seen a lot in altered states, things that blew apart my assumptions about reality. But the most shocking thing wasn't what I saw about the universe. It was what I saw about us, about humanity, about the way we twist suffering into a cosmic conspiracy because the alternative is far more uncomfortable. There's a truth about this world that almost nobody wants to face. A truth so heavy, so uncomfortable, so confronting, that instead of looking at it directly, we build entire mythologies to avoid it. And that truth is this: most of the suffering on this planet is human-made. Not cosmic, not karmic, not the work of demons or archons or reptilians hiding in human skin. Not God, not a demiurge, not some malevolent architect of reality. Us, human beings. Everything we point at as evidence that Earth is a prison planet, the starvation, the poverty, the corruption, the violence, the exploitation, none of that is built into the fabric of existence. We created systems where billions suffer so a handful can thrive. We created an economy where food is thrown away while children starve. We created borders that divide us, ideologies that turn against each other, stories that justify cruelty, structures that reward greed and punish empathy. And the most tragic part is this: all of it was preventable. All of it is preventable. And all of it remains because we haven't chosen to undo it. But here's where the psychology kicks in. Because admitting this, admitting that our species is responsible for most of the suffering here, means accepting that we had the power all along. And that's almost unbearable. It's easier to believe the suffering is cosmic than human. It's easier to believe that it's the fault of a reptilian shapeshifter or interdimensional archons. It's easier to believe that we are being farmed, oppressed, punished, or imprisoned by some outside force. Because if we admit that it's us, then we have to face the mirror. We have to face the greed, the ignorance, the apathy, the cruelty, the system of domination we willingly uphold, the structures of violence we normalize, the ways we benefit from injustice, the ways we participate in it, and the ways we look away. It's too much for most people, so they project the guilt outwards. They invent cosmic villains to carry the weight. The prison planet narrative really isn't metaphysical. It's psychological. It's an escape hatch, a story that lets people avoid responsibility by blaming the universe. Because if archons rule the world, then nothing is our fault. If a demiurge designed the suffering, then we're just victims. If reptilians control the government, then we can't do anything about it. These beliefs protect people from the pain of acknowledging that humanity has slept through its own moral catastrophe. But the truth is brutal and liberating at the same time. The universe didn't do this. We did. But here's the good news. Because we did, we can also undo it. The moment you remove all the human-made suffering, the wars, the exploitation, the systemic poverty, something strange happens. Earth stops looking like a prison. It starts looking like something else entirely. A beautiful, fragile, vivid world full of texture, emotion, connection, art, love, wonder, landscapes, relationships, and possibilities. The inherent suffering, the part that comes with being flesh and blood, is actually tiny in comparison to what we've added on top. And that inherent suffering isn't meaningless or a punishment. It's the contrast that makes life feel real. It's what gives love its depth. It's what makes joy shine so brightly. It's what makes every moment precious, because it won't last forever. But we don't see any of that, because the world we've built drowns out the natural beauty of being human. And so people assume the suffering is cosmic. They assume the world is a trap. They assume someone must be doing this to us, because they can't imagine that we, ordinary humans, would ever allow this much pain to exist unless we were being controlled. But we're not controlled. We're unconscious. And consciousness can and is waking up. And that awakening begins the moment we tell the truth. This planet does not suffer because it's a prison. This planet suffers because humanity has forgotten itself. And the moment we say that out loud, the real story of why souls choose to come here finally begins. When you finally see that most of the suffering here is created by us, by human ignorance, human systems, and human fear, something shifts. Because suddenly the question changes. It's no longer why would any soul choose to incarnate into a world this cruel. It becomes, what does this world look like from outside the veil? Because here's the thing. From this perspective, the human perspective, life can look terrifying, fragile, painful, chaotic, unpredictable, and unfair. From inside the body, the stakes feel absolute. Pain feels like the end of the world. Loss feels like an annihilation. Mortality feels like a cosmic insult. But outside the veil, outside this narrow band of perception, outside the temporary identity you call you, none of that exists. There is no pain, no trauma, no threat, no danger, no other, no fragility, no risk, and no death. You are pure awareness, pure presence, pure luminosity, infinite, eternal, unconditional, a field of intelligence that has no opposite. There is no such thing as being hurt from that vantage point, because you are everything, and everything is you. So when a soul chooses to incarnate, it isn't thinking the way a human thinks. It doesn't see suffering as suffering. It sees experience. It doesn't see pain as punishment. It sees a sensation the infinite cannot feel without a body. And most importantly, the soul doesn't choose out of fear. It chooses out of love. Love for experience, expression, depth, and connection. Love for the chance to become a specific perspective inside the infinite. Because that's all incarnation really is. The infinite choosing to feel something particular for a while. Not because it needs to learn anything, but because it wants to experience itself in a new way. You've seen this yourself in altered states, during ego dissolution. There's this unmistakable clarity. There is only love. There is only curiosity. There is only exploration. There is no fear. The fear belongs only to the avatar, the human self, not the underlying consciousness. And that's why the soul isn't scared of hardship or suffering, limitation or death, because it knows these things are temporary. It knows they dissolve, that they're part of the dream. It knows the veil makes them look heavier than they really are. From the soul's vantage point, incarnation is like diving into a vivid, intense, emotional simulation. Not to learn lessons, but to feel what it can only feel here. To taste subjectivity, vulnerability, separateness, time, identity, embodiment. To taste the perspective of one life lived from the inside. And yes, to experience pain. Because pain, as awful as it seems from within it, adds dimension, depth, contrast, and meaning. Not all pain, of course. not the horrific suffering humans inflict on each other. The soul doesn't choose that part. That part is the distortion. But the inherent suffering, the ache of loving and losing, the vulnerability of being mortal, the weight of having a body, the bittersweet nature of impermanence, those are chosen, because those are the very things that make life beautiful. If you removed all the unnecessary human-made suffering, what would remain is pure, raw experience, and that experience is worth everything. Souls come here not to be crushed, punished, or tested, but because this is one of the richest, most intense, most meaningful experiences consciousness can have, and the infinite wants to feel it, willingly, lovingly, and without fear. And once you understand that, the entire question of why souls choose to come here stops being a mystery, because they aren't choosing suffering, they're choosing life. They're choosing an angle of themselves they cannot access in the formless state. They're choosing a perspective that only a body can give them. And the moment you see it from that perspective, the prison planet idea collapses. This isn't a trap. This is a voluntary immersion, a temporary narrowing of the infinite so it can feel the finite from the inside. And with that understanding, we can now move into why some souls choose the hardest lives of all. When you really understand what the soul is, what you are beneath the veil, something strange begins to make sense. Some souls choose very difficult lives, and they choose them voluntarily. This idea sounds absurd from inside the human perspective, because here suffering feels unbearable. It feels like failure, abandonment, or cosmic cruelty. It feels like the universe must have turned its back on us. But that perception belongs only to the avatar, the human mind trying to interpret the experience while trapped inside it. Outside the veil, it looks entirely different. Because outside the veil, the soul cannot be harmed, diminished, or traumatized. It is infinite awareness choosing a temporary role, and sometimes for reasons that are more profound than we can see from inside the dream, a soul chooses a role that will confront humanity with its own reflection. Not to be punished, not because it needs suffering, not because it deserves karma, not because it has a lesson to learn, but because its struggle and its story will create a ripple that changes the collective. You've seen this in altered states. The way every action, every moment, every life sends out ripples that echo forever. Those ripples don't stop when a life ends. They spread outward into the lives of others, into their decisions and values, into the way they treat others, into the way they raise their children, and the way they interpret the world. A single life can shape millions, even one that appears insignificant or only lasts a short time, even one that ends in tragedy. We only fail to see the full ripple effect because the veil filters everything down into a narrow timeline. But the soul sees it, the soul knows it, the soul chooses with that knowledge in full view. This is why a child born into poverty is not evidence of a malevolent universe. It's evidence of a malevolent human system and a soul who chose to shine a light on it. This is why a person who suffers discrimination does not prove a cosmic prison. It proves human ignorance and a soul who chose a life that would reveal that ignorance to others. This is why someone who dies young is not evidence that life is meaningless. It's evidence that meaning has nothing to do with longevity and everything to do with impact. From the outside, from the expanded vantage point, the soul sees poverty, injustice, inequality, cruelty, collective suffering, the human-made distortion, and some souls choose to enter into those distortions not as victims, but as volunteers and messengers. A soul may take on hardship to show humanity the cost of its unconsciousness, to make the world look at itself, to inspire compassion, to crack open empathy in those who have forgotten it, to expose systems of harm, to reveal our own cruelty to us. These are not martyrs in the religious sense. They are martyrs in the cosmic sense, not dying for our sins, but existing in a way that changes the collective forever. Their very presence reshapes the world, because every life has impact, not metaphorically, but literally. Every interaction creates ripples. Every act of kindness alters timelines. Every injustice witnessed by others changes their values. And when such a life ends, even if it ends in tragedy, the soul is not broken, damaged, or diminished. It returns to its infinite state, carrying the richness of the experience, the meaning of the ripples, the beauty of having participated in the world's unfolding. Nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless, and nothing is forgotten. The soul doesn't see tragedy the way a human does. What we call tragic, the soul often sees as profound, not because suffering is ideal, but because the suffering that exists here is not cosmic, it's human, which means every soul who incarnates here, especially in difficulty, is helping humanity see what humanity has done. Some souls come here to awaken others. Some come to soften others. Some to expose what's broken. Some to show what's still possible. Some come to love in places where love has been forgotten. Some come to shake the world. Some to heal the world. Some to break the spell of unconsciousness simply by existing. Not victims, volunteers. And once you understand that, you begin to see the world differently. Not as a prison, not as a punishment, not as a test, but as a place where the infinite comes to participate, influence, experience, and express itself. And that leads us to the final part. Not a school, not a trap, but something far more beautiful. When you step back far enough, far past the narratives, far past the conspiracies, the fear, the wounds humanity inflicts on itself, a different picture starts to emerge. A picture that has nothing to do with punishment, nothing to do with learning, nothing to do with cosmic authority figures judging you, testing you, or controlling you. Because once you remove the human-made suffering from the equation, all the poverty, the cruelty, the violence, the systems of domination, what's left isn't a prison at all. What's left is a world of unimaginable beauty, made of landscape and sensation and emotion and possibility. A world of oceans, forests, sunsets, mountains, seasons, storms, quiet mornings, shared laughter, unexpected friendships, falling in love, creating things, discovering things, expressing things. A world of colour and depth and texture. A world where consciousness can become localized, can become someone. Where the infinite can temporarily become finite. Where the boundaries can take shape. Where the external can experience a moment where the formless can experience form. Where the one can experience the illusion of being two. This is not a prison. This is a perspective. This is what it feels like to be inside the dream instead of outside it. People talk about the veil, but the veil isn't a cage, it's a filter, a lens, a narrowing of awareness that allows infinity to feel the world from the inside. Without the veil, nothing would feel meaningful, real, intimate, personal, or precious. Because when you're everything, you can't taste the experience of being someone, unless you forget for a while what everything feels like. The veil is what makes this experience immersive. It's what makes love feel like love, loss feel like loss. It's what makes life feel like life. Not because the universe is hiding truth from you, but because this incarnation is about exploring inside of limitation. Not to learn, improve, or evolve, not to pass tests or complete cosmic objectives, but simply to experience, to express, to ripple outward into the collective, to move the human story forward in ways you will only see when the veil drops. And here's the most important part. When you die, the veil dissolves, and you remember everything. You remember who you were before this life. You remember why you chose this life, the meaning in the pain, the interconnectedness of every choice you made, the ripples you created that changed other lives. You remember how nothing was wasted. You remember you are and always were a limited expression of consciousness choosing to taste life through a human lens. And you remember that suffering wasn't cosmic, it was human, which means, and this is the revelation that shatters the prison planet myth completely, humanity created distortion. Humanity can undo it. Humanity always had the power. And once the distortion is gone, once the unnecessary suffering is removed, Earth becomes exactly what the soul sees when it chooses to come here. A brutally beautiful, intensely vivid, emotionally rich immersion into a world of form and contrast and connection. Not a classroom, not a prison, and not a punishment, but a veiled experience, a dream of infinite dreams of itself, a story told from the inside, a moment in eternity, a temporary mask worn by something that has no beginning and no end. And when it's over, when you finally remove the mask, there is no fear, no judgment, no shame, no cosmic scrutiny. There is only understanding, there is only love, and the quiet, unmistakable knowing, I chose this, and I would choose this again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Choose love, abandon fear, and see how truly beautiful this existence really is. Until next time, keep dreaming.